Hello, this is Larry Woodstone for Wood Enthusiasts. Thank you for joining us today.
For Pete's sake, Paul, just turn the stupid audience off. It's not even real. Nobody's going to believe it.
Thank you. Nice to be joining you guys. It's nice to have you guys come along with us, and we're really excited. We are super excited about this episode because right beside me here, we once again, I'm up in Muskoka, and I'm sitting beside a very close friend, someone you all know very well by this point.
Gary Gilbert.
Yes, we're talking to Gary
Hello.
Gilbert. We're talking to Gary, and we are super excited. We're excited to have you on my podcast as a special guest once again. And how has your day been? Just tell me about your day. How are things?
It's been hot.
Yes. Oh, it's been a gorgeous day. It's been a gorgeous day up here. But we're kind of sitting on the top of a mountain. We're actually in your minivan. It's a beautiful minivan. And what I like about it is the wood paneling all inside. And you actually custom ordered wood paneling for the outside. And correct me where I'm wrong, because I believe the story went that they sent you wood paneling, but it was false.
That's correct.
So you actually went to the lumberyard.
Furious.
So explain what happened. So you went to the lumberyard.
I went to the lumberyard.
And it was Muskoka Lumber right here in Huntsville, Ontario.
No, it was Nadrovsky's.
Oh, Nadrovsky's, that's right, Mike. Oh,
yes.
But they have incredible lumber.
They do.
Wonderful selections.
They do. And it took me about an hour. You had to rub fresh through each one, right? But when I found the right one, it was an easy fit.
It was an easy decision.
Easy fit, easy decision.
It wasn't hard for you to decide.
No. Now take a waft, smell. Take it in.
Oh,
Larry.
you know what? Actually, to be honest, I'm sitting here and I'm smelling it. But earlier, me and my daughters went around the outside of your car and we were rub freshing. We were just kind of sanding little pieces of your wood, and I noticed I could smell that mahogany because once again, that's your favorite. That's your favorite wood.
And what other cars can do that?
Well, the topaz. The topaz can do that.
Kudos to them.
Yeah. So as we continue here, I am just elated, and I know you're not as excited as I am, but I'm really excited because we have a very good friend of ours coming on the show. Would you like to tell the audience who's going to join us today, Gary?
Yeah, I do think he's odd, but
yeah, well, I would say he's interesting. I would like the way I like to say it is I like to say he's interesting.
It's Glenn Clutterbuck.
That's right. We have Glenn Clutterbuck, and I am so excited. I'm so excited. So actually, we're going to get him on the horn here, and while Gary dials them up, we are just going to sit here and we're going to kind of think about what we're going to talk about, because there's honestly when it comes to Mr. Clutterbuck, I said, oh my goodness, Mr. Oh, we're on hands free. We're just going to have to take that off. Just have to use your phone and just put speakerphone. Yeah, we're going to have to max volume. We're just not sure how this is going to work, so we're going to have to put the volume all the way up there.
Why wouldn't we do it?
Hello?
We're just going to try to figure out the volume here. Gary just gave me his phone.
That's as loud as it goes.
So we don't have a very good signal. How's your signal there, Glenn? Glenn, how's your signal? Oh, this is not going well.
Bet you he's hydrating.
Okay, well, we're just going to have to take a break here. We're going to have a word from our sponsors while we try to figure out how to contact Glenn. This is just going to be heartbreaking if we can't get a hold of Glenn Clutterbuck. I know he's so excited about this. He was so excited about this all day. So let's just give him another ring here. Let's just give him another quick ring. Give me a ring here. Apparently that's as loud as Gary's phone will go. I don't know if that's going to be loud enough.
Hello?
Oh my goodness. Glenn, I'm so glad to hear from you. We were trying to get a hold of you, but we had some sort of issues when it came to our phone signal.
Larry, is that you?
It is. That's right. Larry Woodstone, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for calling.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear you. Actually, right beside me, we have Gary Gilbert with me.
Hi.
Gary's there too?
Gary is here. Yes, he's right here with us, and we're super excited about kind of the program and what kind of the direction we're going to take it tonight.
Oh, great. So you guys are together, eh?
That's right. We're up here in Muskoka. We're just looking over at Lions Lookout. We're in his minivan, and we were just talking about how he's actually completely wrapped. He went to the lumber store uptown here, and he got real hardwood to wrap his minivan in because he didn't like the fake wood that originally came on it.
Oh, that's an excellent idea. You know, nothing worse than fake wood. Doesn't even need water. It's ridiculous.
That's correct.
So yeah, we've just had a really wonderful early conversation in this podcast, and what I told him was I was super excited because you've been hounding us for years and years and years and years and years and years to try to connect with us, and now we're kind of taking it to the next level with our relationship, and we're kind of getting you involved in the wood enthusiast front, and what we're calling you now, what I've been starting to say, and I think Gary's kind of getting on board, is that we're calling you one of the founding fathers.
I wouldn't go that far.
It's an honor. It's an honor and a privilege, and really connect with you guys. Even hang out once or twice. Connect but hang out. And,
and lives. That's right. And lives get so busy, and it makes it very difficult. And we didn't have time to give you an invite here, but I'm just so glad we got to reach you through a phone, and we're really excited. So we've got some things we want to talk about. And firstly, I've got Gary right here.
Hello.
Yeah, and we just want to have a conversation about. What do you call yourself? How would you label yourself when it comes to your enthusiasm for trees?
Well, I'm technically a tree hydrationist. Yeah.
A tree hydrationist.
Yeah, for the common folk, wood waterer.
A tree hydrationist. That's what you would call yourself. A tree hydrationist.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, why don't you take a second? I know. I got Gary here, and he's kind of.
Sorry, I just don't understand that, because there are trees that seem very luscious, seem very hydrated. But
extremely lush, very lush.
You know who I'm talking about, your neighbor, and you got something against you on that. That was a luscious tree. I was there. Why did you see the need?
You're talking about George.
Well,
I think he goes by Jorge because of his culture.
Well, I call him George. I don't care. I don't like him. But I think he has a luscious tree. Well, you should have seen it a couple years ago, Gary. You should have seen it a couple years ago, okay? Because it was dying, and you mean the leaves. Sorry,
Glenn. Let me ask you a question. Are you kind of saying? It sounds to me from a distance here. It sounds like you're saying that maybe you had something to do with all this lusciousness that Gary's referring to when it comes to that tree in Jorge's yard.
Well, sometimes, I might sneak over there and give it a little bit of water, a little bit of hydration.
And tell me about Jorge, and how does he feel about when you sneak over to his yard? Because from my understanding is his children's bedroom are right outside that tree that you've been watering.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes there's some splash, George doesn't like it too much. That's why now I try to go over, maybe at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., try to get in there.
So you feel that maybe standing outside of his kid's window at 3 a.m. watering his trees is more appropriate. You find like that's kind of an appropriate thing.
Well, okay. Well, let's put it this way, okay? His kids are sleeping, they're fine. The tree's outside dying. What are you going to do?
I just don't get it.
Yeah, so Gary's here, and he's saying he struggles to understand it, but I think one of the beauties of wood enthusiasm is that there's a diversity. And when we look at our diversity, we're all excited, and we're all very passionate about wood. And that's something I don't think anybody will deny. But it's the diversity in our group.
Can I jump in, Larry? You're talking about so much diversity within the wood culture, and it's been really tickling me, not in a good way. It's a common fact out there that people think that there are 26,000 types of wood, and they're so wrong. In the wood community, we need to stick to knowing there are only two types: hardwood and softwood.
Oh my goodness. Glenn, tell me your first thoughts about that. This is the first time I've even... usually when we do these podcasts, we have weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of worth of writing, and we sit down and we talk about all the different angles we're going to take, and this is kind of turning a hard left right in front of my eyes here, and it's kind of shocking me. I've got that little...
First response to that, I'd say that's a really... like a traditional view, kind of old world sort of thinking.
That's right. That's exactly what came to my mind.
You know what I mean? Like, they don't have the science. Like, now we know. Like, I go on nature walks, and I see hundreds of varieties of trees, hundreds that are desperate for water, but hundreds of varieties of trees. They're all individuals. They all have their own kind of expression.
It's truly beautiful. It's truly beautiful if it's anything, isn't it?
What's interesting is it brings up science, and science says there's two types: hardwood and softwood. Those are the two types.
Wow.
Interesting. Yeah, that's pretty a narrow category in my opinion, but
wow.
I'm just glad we're, that we can be friends and, kind of agree to disagree, right?
It's my podcast, and I'm excited to have a couple people here. So I'm just going to take a second. I'm just going to pull on the reins, and I'm just going to pull on the reins and say, wow, there is something happening here that makes me nervous. And there's something happening here that really kind of stretches my mind because I have some questions for you, Gary. And I do not like to be sitting on the opposite side of Gary on matters, and I think everybody knows that because he's so full of wisdom and he's so full of knowledge and he's so intelligent that sometimes it's overwhelming. And Glenn, I know you say that to me all the time, that you get nervous being around Gary because he's so smart and he's so intelligent and he makes you nervous.
He's like he's a giant figure, especially in the wood enthusiast community, and so to disagree with him it's a big thing.
And
but
so at this point we have myself, who I'm kind of a self-proclaimed wizard when it comes to wood, and we have Glenn, the hydrationist, and we're kind of standing at the opposite ends here. So I have some questions for Gary. When it comes to labeling trees, I hear that you're labeling them in two ways. There's either a softwood or a hardwood.
That's correct.
And I'm going to ask you here, why do you get to label them that way, and who are you to label, just to say, this is it, there's an A and B conversation, you can see your way out of it, it's just a 1 and 2 type thing. Let's talk about that.
I do not. Nature does.
Oh, it's a nature thing. So you're kind of putting this in a binary.
That's correct.
So Mr.
Nature produces either hardwood or softwood.
Mr. Clutterbuck would say that we're kind of in a non-binary, variable. Let me give you an example, actually. Glenn, you were talking to me about this yesterday. I'll bring it up just because you're on a distance and it's kind of, it's my podcast. So I'm going to bring up the fact that we talked about balsa. Do you remember that, Glenn? Do you remember Mr. Clutterbuck?
Yeah.
Do you remember talking about balsa wood?
Wonderful conversation about balsa wood. It was probably a couple hours long, actually.
And you taught me something that I had never known before, actually. It's really exciting. This is very interesting. But balsa wood, and I think Gary would agree, is a very light wood, very light textured wood.
Absolutely.
It's very soft.
Enough said.
And actually, Glenn likes to fly airplanes, remote-controlled airplanes, RC airplanes, and he's out there, weekend after weekend after weekend flying these airplanes. And what's the number one product that you use to structure your airplane, Glenn?
Balsa wood.
Balsa wood. And it's because of what? It's because of...
Well, it's soft, yet it's actually considered a hardwood.
And that's what makes me nervous here.
But what is it? What is its structure?
It's classified as a hardwood. I mean, Larry, you can chime in there. I don't mean to interrupt, but it's classified as a hardwood, but it's pretty soft.
And this is honestly what gets me really nervous. And this is why I know we talked for weeks before this that when conversations go south, we need to pause, we need to take a break. But I don't want to, because I think we're really getting somewhere here when it comes to the wood enthusiasm world, and we're hitting some nails pretty hard on the head with kind of a one-stroke hit here. And this is exciting. This is dark, and it's exciting, and it's light, and Gary's making a point, and it's a point he's sticking with. It's a point that he's really sticking with. But Glenn, I think I'm with you for a little bit here, Mr. Clutterbuck. I think that you and me agree that there's such a wild, wonderful world out there that we need to consider this a little bit longer before we kind of end our answer on where we land here, isn't it? Isn't that right?
In my opinion, if a poplar wants to be called a poplar, call it a poplar. If a maple wants to be called a maple, call it a maple. That's all I'm saying.
But what if a poplar wants to be called a maple? Well, I guess they can't talk. I guess they can't.
Well,
it can't be called. A poplar is a poplar. A maple is a maple.
And a poplar's not a maple.
Look, I don't want to confuse the children.
Is a maple a poplar?
No, maple is a
some trees
maple.
graft together,
What's
some
a
trees
balsa?
graft together, and you have two trees of different species growing together, and they get hydrated
Well, I want to
really
thank
well.
you for joining us. We're going to come right back. We're going to take a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Just give us one moment. Turn the music down. Thank you so much for joining us for our second half here. We're joined with Mr. Gary Gilbert. And I'm sorry, I do not get that name right. And so help me, I've been trying for years, but I always like to make it into this kind of French Renaissance Gilbert, and he does not like that. He's not a fan of the French, some would say. And also on the phone here, this is still exciting. And we're going to be handing in a bill for some long distance charges here, I'm sure, to the producers. But we've got Mr. Glenn Clutterbuck on the phone.
How's it going, Larry? How's it going, Gary?
Oh, it's going great. We're so happy to have you here, staying on the phone with us over the break from a word from our sponsors.
You know what? I really don't have much else to do, so it's just great to talk, guys.
Yeah, we are super excited to have you on board here today on my podcast while we have a couple special guests. So we're going to segue into a second part of our conversation with you, Glenn, while people get to know you. We're going to talk a little. We've been twittering a lot. I know you are certainly into the social media, and you are pinging left and right, and you're kind of tweeting and resharing and hashtagging all sorts of things, aren't you?
Yeah, trying to really raise awareness about hashtag tree hydration. It's really, it's kind of a life passion. It's what I do. It's what I kind of go to. It's the school of life for me.
And sometimes for us wood enthusiasts, we're excited about wood, and we're talking about wood and our passions, and we feel like, I know Gary says this quite often, that sometimes we feel like you're kind of pulling the attention away from wood and kind of pushing it towards the earlier stages of wood. And isn't that right, Gary?
Yeah, I don't get it.
But Glenn, you have a reason for that, and I would like you to explain why you think that you're both a wood enthusiast and a hydrationist at the same time.
Well, yeah, I mean, strictly hydration for wood, right? So, okay, think about it this way, right? People don't think this is important, and I believe there's a following happening because people are really starting to wake up and understand how important it is to be watering the trees.
There's a lot of water. It sounds like you're saying there's a lot of watering going on out there.
I hope so. Oh, I only can pray and hope. But just think about this for Larry. Think about this for a second, Larry. If a tree does not get water, right? What happens, right?
Well, it doesn't drink. It doesn't drink and it doesn't grow. That's just the science.
It doesn't grow.
That's science.
The leaves don't. They don't grow, right? And then the leaves. What happens with leaves? Does anyone know?
Well, when it comes to the
question.
process of photosynthesis, it sounds like the leaves aren't going to produce oxygen.
Oh, are they ever? And as the carbon dioxide from our atmosphere passes through the
Thank you for joining us. Just give us a moment. We're going to have a word from our sponsors. And we are back. Thank you for joining us. What a wonderful message from that sponsor. We're super excited to have them on board, and it's just a product that we really align our values with. And I know I speak on behalf of myself and Gary and Glenn when I say use the product, and we're really excited about it.
You can reach out to us if you would like a sponsorship.
Oh yeah. Yes, and we're really excited about Corksicle and the fact that they're not quite interested yet, but we are.
And Burt's Bees.
And Burt's Bees. And
Burt's Bees.
That's another one.
Yeah.
And Rigid. We've been talking a little bit of Rigid planers, and those are really exciting products that we're kind of in talks with each other, not with the companies, but we are in talks.
We've been talking to each other a lot about those things.
Yes, we've been really discussing it. So, Gary, I know you had a question. You saw a video just the other day with Glenn where he was doing and there was a statement that he came out with, and I think you wanted to ask him for you.
Yeah, Glenn, you were sitting in a car and the rain was coming down all around you, and you talked about the place where you used to work. I'm curious, why don't you work there anymore?
Oh, yeah. The rain was coming down, and I was sitting outside my old work there. Yeah, I don't work there anymore, but... yeah, I just couldn't...
but why don't you work there anymore?
Yeah, well, because I would show up, but it was hard to get in the building sometimes.
And on the outside looking in, I know in your perspective, you've got a lot more information than we do, and that's kind of, we're trying to kind of pull hairs here and trying to get some information out of you, but it seems odd to me that you had a place to work, and you no longer have a place to work, and we're just kind of trying to find out why. Is it because you didn't show up?
Well, who did you work for?
Well, I didn't show up because, you see, there's a lot of trees in that parking lot, and in the parking lot, surrounded by pavement, so those trees don't get much hydration. So
right, but who did you work for?
Yeah, I think Gary's trying to find out what is this business? What kind of what is it a business, and what's the name of it?
Oh, it's a family business. So
is it Clutterbuck? Is it Clutterbuck Industries? I did a little googling here, and I believe it's Clutterbuck Industries.
Yeah, we build homes. Yeah.
So Clutterbuck Industries, and you build homes, and you used to work there. So I guess my question here is, it sounds like you were fired after some time, but can I ask you who fired you?
Well, my dad.
Your father?
Yeah, I mean.
Oh
yeah.
my goodness.
But I mean, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It was worth it, I guess. So.
Oh my goodness, Glenn, this is terrible to hear.
Well, you know what? It's really just freed me up to do more of what I'm passionate about.
But you're homeless.
Why did he fire you?
Sorry, Gary, say that again.
Why did he fire you?
You know, it was just, I found it really difficult to pass by those thirsty trees in the parking lot, and so I didn't necessarily get work done inside the building, but I felt I was doing a lot of good work outside the building.
There's actually an article here on the internet mentioned something about a sprinkler system.
Okay, Gary has a tendency to be a little bit strong with his words, but I did want to.
You know what? The question was asked, and I should answer it. It's okay, Larry. Don't need to.
Okay.
But because I don't really have a problem with
this.
It.
Sounds like there's some difficult moments here. It sounds like there's some difficult things here.
Well, I just did what I thought was best, and honestly, if I had the chance, I'd do it again. We were went to the lumber yard, and I noticed one day that wood, it was dry. I was like, how are you going to build a home with dry wood? Honestly, how are you going to build a home? It's just going to burn down.
So for clarity's sake, you went to your family's compound. Is that right? And it was it during the day, Glenn? Was this during the day, or did you kind of have to sneak in?
Well, no, there's a lot of people that are doing the day, so I did my 2 a.m.
So you snuck in. It sounds to me like you're saying you snuck in.
Well, I knew the security system pretty well, right?
So at 2 a.m. you snuck in, and there's a compound, or there's a yard there, and it's full of lumber. Now tell me, Glenn, what happened here? What happened to lead to this final kind of the execution, kind of, if you would say?
Well, I thought the best way to water the wood was just to pull the sprinkler system, because the water's just sitting there doing nothing, good for nothing, and so, it watered the wood pretty sufficiently.
Oh my goodness!
I'd fire him.
Sorry, Gary just made a very strong point here, and I'd like him to say it again.
Well, not to be offensive, but I'd fire you too.
But that is offensive, Gary.
Okay.
Because you see, to Mr. Gletterbuck, he's got a very strong passion. But I did want to note, and I really apologize for this, Glenn, because I had to email your father because we knew all this going in, and I didn't tell you that, but I wanted to be authentic. So I emailed your father, and I wanted to ask him a few questions. And I wanted to ask him, if your son is so passionate about watering wood, why does it bother you so much? And his answer was, it was about three words or so, and he just answered simply, and he just said, he warped the wood. Tell me about that, Glenn.
He warped the wood. Yeah,
warped. He warped it.
Oh.
It warps.
Oh,
apparently, after Gary gave me some information, because Gary's a wealth of information. And Gary, tell me about what you were saying when you get wet wood.
Well, this is what I really struggle with Glenn being an enthusiast is.
Glenn is a member of our team, and he is an enthusiast.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm an enthusiast, Gary. All right. So I don't know why you have to go there. That's a little hurtful.
Okay. So let me ask you, what happens when you water wood?
So you're talking about but at this point, Glenn, Gary's talking about post. Lumber. He's talking about lumber. We're not talking about tree trunks here.
It's never too late to water some good wood, all right? If it's sitting there thirsty...
But I would have a hard time saying that you've got science to support you saying there's never a good time not to water wood, because I got to be honest here, there's no roots when it comes to lumber. So, roots are kind of the drinkers. I always call roots the straws of the tree.
Lumber sitting there, it doesn't still have the veins running through the tree.
No, it doesn't, Gary. Sorry, Gary.
Yeah, so
no, it doesn't, Glenn.
Yeah. Have you ever had a whole table at your house that's cracked down the middle because it's dry?
This doesn't make any sense. Roots are the straws of the tree, and they don't have any roots.
One sec. I just don't think he's going to get it.
You just want to...
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. I don't think we're going to continue the conversation, but I want to be very clear, Gary.
Yeah.
I absolutely have a strong for Glenn, and I think Mr. Clutterbuck has a long ways to go. Mm-hmm. I think he's got a lot of learning to do, but I think he's got an incredible passion, and I think you recognize that.
I would agree with the passion side of things. His knowledge worries me.
But we all started somewhere, right? I mean, even back in 1986, when you first met me, and I was an expert on my own right, and you were an expert in your right, there's things I didn't know about what you were passionate about, and things that you didn't know. And it surprises me that I don't even like saying it. Actually, it cuts a little bit for me to say it. But the facts are, we had to grow.
Like a tree.
We had to grow. So I've actually got a call back here. Things got a little bit heated there, and I think we kind of ended a little bit early. So, Glenn, we have you here back on the phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm just a little bit confused as to how Gary thinks that you shouldn't water dry wood when you see it. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Gary, how do you respond to that?
You don't do it.
Gary, if you were in Africa and you saw starving children on the side of the road, would you feed them? Or would you walk away?
I'd feed them.
Right. And so, just as important, there's dry wood sitting in a lumberyard, thirsty, craving water. We're just going to let it go thirsty?
I want to make it very clear to whoever's listening, wood and African children are very different.
Okay. Let's just pull ourselves back together. That was this is very heavy, and as the honest fact is, the world of wood is so important. It's so significant, and it changes lives, and things get heavy and things get serious. And sometimes on a podcast, even when Glenn, I know you want to keep things light, and Gary, I know Gary is such a lighthearted guy. He's such a sweet guy, and sometimes we butt heads. And sometimes things in the wood enthusiast world, they just get so serious, and they get so heavy, and topics, they both break our heart and they lift our spirits. And I know that Gary and Glenn, they're deep friends, and sometimes they get passionate. And I didn't expect this. I didn't expect it to go this way. And it's hard to see friends fight, and I don't like to see it. And I don't like to see us live on the air, Bach Lumbers. But that's what happens. And I just want to say, Gary, and I want to say, Glenn, that I'm honored to be a part of this community. And I'm honored to be a part of a community that we can speak openly, and we can speak refreshingly, and we can speak honestly about things that both blow our minds and that change our lives. And I know, Gary, you wanted to say something about that.
Well, I appreciate having you as a wood enthusiast.
And Glenn, you appreciate having me and Glenn as wood enthusiasts, as founding fathers of a community that we're excited to see grow.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Glenn still.
Yeah. And Glenn, and what are your thoughts, Glenn, here as we kind of close up?
You know what, guys? I'm enthusiastic about.
And we really appreciate Glenn coming with us, and I think that's great that he had such a great showing with us. And we just want to end this program on a high note. Please join us.
Just contact friends, guys.
Yep. Thank you very much for calling in. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks again, guys. And on behalf of Gary,
Gilbert,
and myself, Larry Woodstone, we're asking you to follow us, to subscribe, to share, to like, to look at our YouTube channel and just kind of see what we've got going there. Because if you search Wood Enthusiasts, you are going to see a lot of wonderful clips, a lot of wonderful videos. And coming September, you're going to see the very first episode. And we are excited. I just think about it all the time, and I think, I kind of want to release this thing, but at the same time, we've got a lot of work to do. So we're really excited.
if I'm being honest with you, Larry, that we're becoming too weak. And we need to stand our ground.
And we need to stand our ground.
Yes.
And that's, wise words, short words, not very much there, but there's a lot of wisdom there. And we're going to close today with those words. So please like, share, add, retweet, and we will talk to you soon. And from Wood Enthusiasts, this is Larry Woodstone.